unto my voice, I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. Be thou for the people to Godward, that thou mayest bring the cause unto God. And thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shalt show them the way wherein they must walk, and the work they must do. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s and rulers of 10. We'll stop right there and share with us this thought on this evening, the making of a successful leader.
All right.
The making of a successful leader. Be it state president, district moderator, or local pastor, leadership has its perks. Along with the perks come responsibilities. And with responsibilities come anguish. I remember when I was first elected as moderator of Union District, on the first night following the election, they pulled me, the finance committee had pulled me to the side and had given me an honorarium for being moderator. I got home and I began to tabulate and total the honorarium on that night. And on my way to deposit it, I said to myself, this being moderator thing is going to be all right. However, I soon discovered that the honorarium that they had given me was woefully inadequately, and I had spent all of it doing district work less than a month after they had given it to me. Too often, when we position ourselves to be elevated to the point of being a leader, we wrongly or erroneously look at what is given to us and fail to look at or to consider what we ought to be giving back. Being a leader, be it a parent-body leader or being just a department leader, calls for some sacrifice. Being a leader simply says that I'm willing to go whenever I'm called. I'm willing to go wherever I'm sent. I'm willing to be wherever I'm needed. Being a good leader means showing up at the monthly meetings and not waiting for the annual session when your turn comes to shine. Being a good leader means you have to be there when you're there all by yourself. It's interesting that generally after annual session, there's the belief that the convention is now put on autopilot and we hold on until next annual session. We need to know and understand that the success of any organization is not rested upon the shoulders of the leader himself or herself. A good leader is made good by the people who are willing to follow. This narrative that we read on this evening shares with us an individual by the name of Jethro.
Yes.
Jethro was Moses' father-in-law. And the scripture would have us to know, the studying of Jethro's life would have us to know that Jethro had no problem with sitting on the side giving wise counsel. Isn't it interesting that those who would give counsel wants to let it be known that that was my suggestion? And the only reason why they did that is because I brought it to the table. I not only brought it to the table, I passed the motion and seconded it. I called for questions, and I dare anybody to challenge me. Isn't it interesting to know that if our name is not on the marquee, then we sit back and we hold our thoughts and our beliefs to ourselves, walk away from what we would call an unproductive meeting and exclaim, "Didn't nobody ask me?" Listen, as I looked at this narrative of Moses and Jethro, I noticed that Moses did not ask for Jethro's advice. He simply explained to Jethro the daunting task that was awaiting him as being the leader of God's people. Now, we don't have to lead as many people as Moses led, but listen here, if you've got 2 people in your auxiliary, if you've got 2 or 3 people in your department, then the balance of their lives lies in your hands. And you really need to have a plan if you're going to be a successful leader. As I eavesdrop on this conversation between Moses and his father-in-law Jethro, Moses began to explain to his father all that he had to do. And if I can just use a little DMV or Daryl McDonald version, I believe Moses was saying that I got to be the one responsible to make sure that the women's department doing what they're supposed to do. It's my job and it's my responsibility to lay out the curriculum for the Congress of Christian Education. And it's my responsibility to make sure that the ushers are on the door, the health care are always present. I'm the one that got to make sure that the youth are always gathering, they're being taught and trained right when they come together for rehearsal. I'm the one that has to pick the music that they're going to sing. I'm the one to tell the director how to direct. I'm the one to tell the musician how to play. I guess as I was listening to Moses, Moses was simply saying, I got to do everything. It's dangerous, my brothers and my sisters, if we feel that we're the only ones that know how to do anything. I understand that you're good at what you do. I understand that you got degrees and you got letters behind your name. I understand that you've been doing it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years and nobody else know how to do it but you. So listen here, Jethro drops a little tidbit on all of us and lets us know you gonna kill your foolish self if you think you gonna do it all by yourself. I found out that a leader is not a leader if he's the only one marching. If he's the only one and she's the only one in the parade, that's not leading anybody, that's just going on a stroll. You just taking a walk. Jethro says to Moses, you gonna mess around and kill yourself if you try to do it all by yourself. Jethro says that the work, the responsibility is too great for you to have to do it all by yourself. Pastor Donahue, you're pastoring, and so that means you got a little bit of yourself over here. You're the president, you got a little bit over here. And you married, which means you got something else to take care of at home. And I know every now and then the pipe gonna bust. I understand that there might get me a whole leak in the roof. I understand that the car might need to go to the her car might need to go to the shop. Listen here, if you try to do it all by yourself, you gonna mess around and hurt yourself. One of the things, and it wasn't really lifted up to me at the share, but I thank God for divine intervention and showing me this. Any leader needs to know that there is somebody that cares about you. While you're humming the old Negro standard, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Let me just share something with you. There is somebody that knows the trouble that you're seeing. In the history of this convention, you ain't the first president. And listen here, should the Lord delay his coming and things stay as they are, you won't be the last president. So there is somebody that knows the trouble you've seen. And isn't it good to know that when we're feeling down and out, feeling as if we're in this thing all by ourselves, God always sends somebody to whisper words of love in our ear. If it's no more than to remind us, hang on in there, baby, I'm right there with you. Moses is interrupted in his complaining. He's reminded by Jethro, listen here, if you really want to be a successful leader, then there are 3 principles that you need to embrace for your life. If you want to lead your department in the direction that would be pleasing to God, if you want to lead this convention in an avenue where men, women, boys, and girls can see our work and come crying, I yield, what must I do to be saved? You need to embrace certain principles. I'm not telling you to do it, I'm only suggesting that you embrace these 3 principles. In his book, Being a Leader, People Will Follow, the writer David Hocking suggests that the leader must first of all challenge and clarify his own job description. But listen here, if you're going to be successful, you need to know what it is that you're doing. And really, if I could just help you, Mrs. Magnolia, let me just share this thought with you. Don't let everybody else define what your job is. You need to define your own job. In other words, you need to understand for yourself what it was that you got elected to. Let me see if I can't put it this way. And looking at this particular passage of scripture began to help me. It reminded me that I was elected president and not pastor. Help me, now you can. Listen here, you have been elected. The president would simply suggest that you can't run progressive the way you run 3 crosses of Calvary. There are some things you can say at home that you can't say at Bethlehem Temple. Am I making any sense here? You need to know what your job is, and your job really is to facilitate the ideas and the beliefs of the convention. Jethro says to Moses, you really need to kind of define what your real job is. Your real job is to simply talk to the people on behalf of God and take their concerns back to God. Don't worry about vacuuming, don't worry about sweeping the floor, don't worry about changing the light bulbs, don't worry about making sure the air conditioner is set to the right temperature. You need to spend time listening to God. Listen here, if you don't listen to God, you'll find yourself in the wilderness wandering for 40 years. If you don't listen to God, you'll find yourself just walking around in circles. Progressive will never be progressive if you don't listen to God.